Oh my goodness. Here we are. I can't believe this is happening. So I had this whole thing with music that I was going to come into and make this whole entrance. I had Higher Love by Whitney Houston, my girl. And it was actually a very crazy experience. So I've had this last minute change because I kept pausing the music and it kept playing. I had turned it down and then it would turn itself back up. So Whitney girl, if you're here, just know that I love you and I miss you, but it got too crazy for me. So I'm going to dive right into this whole thing, which was not how I planned on doing it. And if you know anything about me, you know that I have talked to countless people in the last few days about how absolutely terrified I am to do this. I don't like recording myself. I don't like my voice on camera. And I definitely don't like doing it live. And so I figured at this point, why not just throw myself to the wolves and conquer all those fears at once? So with that being said, welcome to the Soul Shine Mind podcast. I'm Leslie Pike. I'm obviously your host, which is weird to say, but here I am. And I want to start by saying thank you for spending your New Year's Day watching, if you are, because you could be doing so many other things. And this is the start of a very powerful year for everybody. And the fact that you are willing to give me even a moment of your time, I'm extremely grateful. And with that being said, I would like to start with, you could call it a prayer, you could call it a manifestation, it's up to you. I start my day doing this every morning. It takes 2 seconds, well, maybe 3. And I basically just put my hands together in front of my heart and I say, thank you, God, for all I've had, all I have, and all I have yet to receive. And I open my hands so that I can receive whatever it is God wants to give to me in this moment. So why those 3 things? I start at my heart for what I've had, because what I've had is what brought me to this place. And I'm seeing all these names pop up on here. Thank you guys so much. So much. But so it reminds me of all the things to be grateful for, my lessons, my gifts that have brought me to this space. And I'm thankful for everything I have now because it allows me to exist in this space. And I'm thankful for all I have yet to receive, because if you know me, you know I love life. And I know that whatever is coming, good, bad, indifferent, I'm excited to get it. Which is kind of what led me to my podcast. If you know me, you know that in the last couple of years, I have been on a roller coaster of emotions and events, from divorce to traveling out of the country to drink ayahuasca and face my fears. So here I am doing it again. While in Costa Rica, it was revealed to me that I am what they call a healer. Not in a clinical sense, but in the way that people are naturally drawn to my energy. And most people who know me say the same thing. I've never looked at myself that way, but here I am. And I've always kind of been somebody that people go to for advice or compassion or direction. And so this podcast is about me sharing my light with you. And even if it's just for a minute, sometimes that's all we need. But it's also about sharing the light of the people that I have met along my journey. I have met incredible people, not just local in my neighborhood, my neighbors, teachers of my children. Lisa Thomas, oh my gosh, she's a saint. And she's local in this town. If you ever need a good hug, you need to reach out to that woman. She will hug you through so much of your pain. But also people that I've met on my journey to these other countries, experiencing ayahuasca. So with that being said, the origin of this podcast comes from my personal experience through my healing journey and this spiritual awakening, and my experiences over the last couple of years. And if you know even the tiniest bit about me, you know that the last couple of years have been a crazy, crazy roller coaster with divorce and addiction and starting over and making massive mistakes, burning my candle at both ends, all the things, right? If there's something that you could do wrong, I've been doing it. So welcome to a space where you get to come as you are and there's no judgment. Literally, I don't care what you have to say to me. It's not about judgment. It doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, say whatever you want. We all have boundaries, but it means that I'm going to share my love with you no matter what. Sometimes that love's from afar, sometimes that love's up close, but I'm going to share my love with you. All I ask from you is that you come to the table with an open mind and, you know, as my kitchen quote says, have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing. And the reason for that is because it gives us a space to actually have a conversation and not force things on each other. Our opinions, our beliefs, anything like that. Nobody likes to be forced into anything. So we are not here to impose our will. So what is the soul-shine mind? That's the question everybody keeps messaging me. They keep saying, what does soul-shine mind mean, Leslie? As you go through a spiritual awakening, you learn that you primarily operate through your mind and the ego, which is kind of where the world lives and survives. As you go through your spiritual awakening, you learn to operate through your soul mind, where your soul is speaking through your mind. So that is how I came to get the name Soul Shine Mind. And hopefully we can collectively share even the tiniest bit of advice with each other so that we can raise our vibration, our energy, our whatever you want to call it. The word doesn't make a difference to me, but so that we can raise it collectively and possibly make the world around us, whether it's our personal home, us as people, our neighbors, our community, a little bit better. That doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes. Lord, have mercy. Don't worry, I'm going to dive into plenty of my mistakes because I know there's a lot of people dying to hear my drama over the last couple of years. And again, it's not about bashing. It's not about bad-mouthing. It's about owning who we are as people and coming to terms with it. I'm like watching everybody's names pop up right now and I'm freaking out. Hello, everybody. Some of you I miss and haven't seen in forever. Some of you I get to see all the time. So again, thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you miss me saying thank you as you hop on here, just know that my gratitude goes out to everybody. So aligning with our soul shine mind means speaking our truth and operating as our most authentic self. So how do we do that? How do we do that? We do that by looking in a mirror. Looking in a mirror. And you look in the mirror, and if you look in the mirror right, you see both sides of you, because we all have two. We have our shadow side and we have our light side. And we're supposed to have both sides. When you do that, it's very difficult not to have regret and resentment and anger or sadness for decisions we've made. This journey is about learning to embrace those from a place of compassion and love so that we can create a space for authenticity, vulnerability, and growth together and as individuals. So with that being said, as most of you know, you saw the topic of my first one. I do have notes because, first of all, who the heck remembers an hour of talking? If you do, more power to you, it's not me. But as you go through your journey of a spiritual awakening, it's very messy and emotional, but transformative. And it's the start of how you learn to live authentically. You start by shedding layers of years of conditioning from society, from our families, all of those things, so that you can embrace who God intended you to be. So with that being said, I'm sure you guys have seen some of my social media posts and all of the things. Everybody's definition of God is going to be different. And that's how it's supposed to be, because God communicates with all of us differently. So right now, the time will come, because if you know me, I love a good debate. But right now, I'm not here to define God. I'm just here to convey what's given to me. And that is a message of love. So the purpose of a spiritual awakening is to shed those layers of conditioning, to shed those layers of false beliefs or old beliefs, and it forces us to confront our fears and uncertainties and talk about fear. Can I give a huge shout out to April Lupashansky for always coming to my home and guiding me through my fear. She came today for probably 3 hours as I went into meltdown mode. Why, Leslie, do you throw yourself to the wolves like this? So we all have fear, and it exists for a reason, to protect us, as most of us know. But what it also does is it keeps us trapped in cycles of self-doubt and inauthenticity. It also can create things like depression and anxiety. Emotions demand to be felt, right? And if you don't feel them, they manifest in us as other things. It can be illnesses, it can be other emotions, it can be dramatic situations in our life. And at that point, when that happens, we can choose to reckon with those situations or not. And if we don't, then what happens is our soul calls more to us to help us learn those lessons. So if you're like me, you're an extremely slow learner, because I know lots of people who have been on this path for their whole life and figured it out when they were kids. More power to you. I don't know if it's because you had great parents or what, but I come from a long lineage of delinquents and saints. So we work very hard to find our balance. And fear will keep you trapped in those cycles of that self-doubt, but it also keeps us trapped in unhealthy behaviors. And facing our fears allows us the opportunity to grow, which is the whole point of life. If you're not growing, you're not doing it right. And one of my favorite things that people say to me is, Leslie, you're not the same person. You're not the same person. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're not supposed to be the same person. If you're the same person your entire life, you are not learning, which means you are probably stuck in a cycle that is referred to as the drama triangle. And I wanted to come on here to discuss the drama triangle because it was shown to me in Colombia when I went to do ayahuasca. I did it in Costa Rica and Colombia because, again, slow learner, glutton for punishment. It was shown to me in such a profound way. It literally took this woman, her name was Paola. It took her moments to explain it to me, and it relieved a burden for me that had plagued me my entire life. And that was wrapped around one word, the word whore. What a word. What a word. Wow. Wow. I'm going to give a couple minutes for people to hop back on. Who knew? Who knew that they would mute you and pause you completely like that for saying WHORE? Which is funny, because have you seen half the stuff on Facebook? Man, that's crazy. Okay, well, and if you know me, you know I like to cuss, which means I better be very careful or you guys aren't going to get to hear much of anything. So, with that being said, back to what I was saying, and I'm going to give it just another second because, like I said, who knew they would mute me for saying that word with half the crap that's on Facebook? I guess that's what happens when you give other people the power to control your voice. I'm going to have to get a dry erase board because I have a feeling this is going to happen to me a lot. Actually, this is the only podcast that I'll have where it'll be live. I did this one live because I had so much fear over it. So everybody's comments. Yeah, who knew? Who knew? Especially with a lot of the stuff they let on there. You know what? We're going to change our perspective on that. And we're going to be grateful that they are filtering words like that and hopefully cleaning up their act all around. Okay? So, back to where I was. This woman explained to me the drama triangle, right? The topic was not on that word WHORE. That was the word that I had harbored inside of myself. I went into this meeting with her and it was not even about that. I thought I was there for something else. I wanted to know about my career and all these things that I had wanted to change in my life. And she started to ask me about my life, right? And she had these little toy figures and she starts pulling them out. And she said that I was stuck in the drama triangle. And what the drama triangle is an upside down triangle. And there's 3 roles. One is the victim, poor me, I'm helpless and I'm stuck. The other is the perpetrator or persecutor, however you want to label it, which is I'm right, you're wrong. The other is the rescuer or the savior, which is I'll save you to feel good about myself, right? We don't realize the motive behind it because when you get stuck in it, depending on who you're talking to, you could play all 3 in one person's story, or you could play one in a different story for each person. So you might talk to people and I might be the victim in their story. You might talk to somebody else where I'm the perpetrator in that story. And then you might talk to somebody else where I'm the savior in that story. And then you might talk to somebody like my ex-husband who I'm the victim, the perpetrator, and the savior in the story. So the reason it's important to identify the drama triangle is because if you don't understand the way it works and how to recognize those roles, you don't know how to come out of it. And when you're stuck in the drama triangle, that's where things like addiction and depression and anxiety and helplessness begin to breed. And again, what happens with emotions? They demand to be felt. If you don't feel them, they manifest and flourish into something bigger. So how do we get out of that? How do we get out of the drama triangle, right? Well, there's a mirror to the drama triangle, and that's the empowerment triangle. Just like all of us, right? There's the shadow side and then there's the light side. The empowerment triangle is a shift from the drama triangle to a place of empowerment where we are in control. That shift goes from victim to creator, right? Where you get to say, I'm going to take responsibility for my life. Rescuer or savior becomes the coach, right? I'm going to guide others with my compassion instead of trying to save them, which, holy mother, let me tell you about that lesson for someone like me. And then the last one is challenger instead of perpetrator. So then it's about inspiring growth through honesty and respect instead of hurting people out of a place of survival. Most of us operate from a place of survival because we're stuck in the drama triangle. So once we're able to identify that we're stuck in that triangle and we can transcend into the empowerment triangle, we get to balance our life. And it takes little steps. And the first step, of course, is to recognize that. So if you're somebody who finds yourself always saying, poor me, I'm helpless, or I'm stuck, there's a really good chance that you are completely entangled in that drama triangle. Why is this important to identify? Well, one, because you don't want it to manifest into something bigger. Like I said before we started on our getting cut off there, that's how disease unfolds, and that's how dramatic situations in your life unfold. It's also important because most of us are parents, and the drama triangle, which I don't know if I mentioned, was created by Stephen Cartman, is an important tool to teach our kids. And the reason it's important for us to teach our kids is so that they're not 42 like me learning all about this. So why did that become so powerful for me in Colombia? Well, because as a child, I grew up in a very tumultuous situation where, by the age of, my mom had me very young. She lost her virginity at 16 and boom, she was pregnant with Leslie. And she had her second one by 18, which I can't even imagine, first of all, babies having babies. But she was born into a crazy life, as most of us are. So by the age of 4, she began dating a man who molested my brother and I from the age of 4 to 8. And at that same time, when I was 4, my grandmother, her mother, would be brutally murdered and raped, and her body mutilated, all these things. Everybody has their story. Everybody has their hardship. And those events like that, they shape people and they stick with people for a very long time until you can recognize how it's affecting your life and the role that you're playing in it. It's going to continue to do that. So how do you come out of a situation like that, right? Where something that horrific happens to you? You start by understanding that everybody has a story, and not just a story, but they have a whole family lineage, karmic connections that led them to where they are. Some of those things are carried in with us, and some of you may not believe in that, and that's okay. Even if you don't believe in it, you can't dispute the fact that, when you're born into your family, you take on their problems. So if you don't want to look at it from that perspective, you can look at it from an immediate perspective with your immediate family. When you learn to embrace your own personal drama triangle, right, your own mistakes, you learn how to embrace other people's mistakes with compassion and forgiveness and understanding. So for me, it was about, one, first of all, I was very lucky to have a great aunt and uncle who stepped in and helped, and did all the things, make sure we had church and make sure we had therapy and all this stuff, even though I still ended up a wild child. It's part of my nature. But it's about being able to stop and say, okay, it doesn't make what that person did to me right. It doesn't excuse it. However, it does allow me to stop and say, what could possibly cause a person to hurt somebody in that capacity? We as people project onto other people. So if somebody is able to hurt somebody in that way, that means that there was something inside of them that was hurting, if I had to guess, probably worse, because we are our own worst critics, and that's how it works, right? So if you operate from a place of deficit, it's inevitable that it's going to manifest as something terrible, like a behavior like that. For me, I was able to stop and say that the man who did that probably had a very, very ugly childhood, because I can only imagine what would push somebody to that point. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know what it is, where he is, but I was able to stop and say, wherever, Rich, wherever you are, if you're alive, if you're dead, your energy, your soul, if you're coming back for another lesson, if you're sitting in front of God, whatever it is, I forgive you, because I don't know what your story was, but I'm sure it hurt. And when you can stop and you can forgive somebody without necessarily having to have them there, but you can truly reconcile that, your forgiveness isn't even necessarily for the other person as much as it is for you. Because when you hold on to those things, you hurt yourself. And it might not be through your self-talk. It might be through your actions. It might be through the illnesses that manifest themselves. So recognizing the drama triangle, which I'm not going to dive into it too much because I'm not trying to scare people just yet. I'm going to wait till you guys stick around. But the drama triangle, again, right? Upside down triangle, opposite up top. If you bring them together in alignment, it actually forms the Star of David. So it's about balance. And we'll get into that another time. Like I said, that's not on the agenda today. But balancing those triangles is a symbol of harmony between two opposing forces, which we all have. Like I said, our light and our shadow side. So when you can recognize your own role in the drama triangle, you can remove yourself from it and bring yourself into the empowerment triangle way easier. Way, way easier. Geez, let me tell you. So with that being said, I wanted to basically go into things that you can do, like lazy ways to start a spiritual awakening. What I did was catapult myself into it by drinking ayahuasca in a foreign country with a bunch of people I didn't know, where, you know, you're purging, you're puking, and I was getting ready to say the S word, but I don't even know if I can say that. So I'm going to say crapping. FYI, I do cuss. And you're in your most intimate and vulnerable situations with these people. And on top of that, what ayahuasca does is it shows us what's already inside of us. So you have no choice but to face your fears. And like for me, the second night was literally one of the most terrifying nights of my life. But what that does is once you face those fears, you come out of it in this new space of peace and happiness and a little bit lighter. There's a lot of conflict behind it, and there's a lot of debate around it, which I'm also not going to dive into in this podcast. We will get into it because I love a good debate, but a lot of people are like, well, it's demonic. Well, it's not, because I have met so many people there who were atheists and now are firm believers in God. And like I said, I'm not going to dive in it too much, but the whole point is a spiritual awakening doesn't have to be this crazy, scary thing where you're like me, embracing your darkness, clinging to crystals, hoping for all this stuff. It can be light, and it can be easy, and it can be something simple that you just start changing small habits every day. And one of those things is through compassion. So how do we do that? First of all, do any of us even really know what the definition of compassion is? I question everything. So if you know me, having a conversation with me is exhausting because I have to know all the things. Poor April. Again, April, I love you. Compassion is when you are able to be with someone in their pain. Compassion is when you are able to be with someone in their pain. Why would we not apply that to ourselves? Geez, everything starts with us, right? If we don't have compassion for ourselves, we're not going to have compassion for other people. That's how it works. That's how it works. You can't operate from deficit. There's a quote that I have, and I'm going to have to write it because I'm probably not going to say it accurately, but it's something like, a savior has to be saved because they cannot give that which they do not have, which is so powerful. And the reason I bring up compassion is because there is this other phrase, counting coup, which I'm sure you guys saw on my social media posts. What is counting coup? Counting coup is a Native American term that was used amongst the Plains Indians. And for me, the Native Americans had a profound effect on my upbringing. If you knew me as a kid and you went to my family's house, it's everywhere. So I grew up going to powwows, working at powwows. So I've always had this sentiment with their traditions. But basically what counting coup is it refers to an act of bravery when in battle, which meant that they would get close enough to their opponent and they would tap their opponent on the head or their weapon with a coup stick or their own weapon. So why would they do that? Because the act symbolized courage and skill and often honor, as well as showing their enemy that they were capable of getting close enough to do it, but that they were going to extend compassion to them. So, how do you apply that to yourself? Well, because when we see our shadow sides, our instinct is to attack, right? It's to attack ourselves from a place of regret or resentment. So, counting coup with your healing journey means embracing that healing side of you from a place of love. Because love flourishes quicker than resentment. Love flourishes quicker than anger. All of those things. So if you can embrace your shadow sides from a place of love, then when somebody comes to you with their shadow side, and they will, you'll be able to do the same thing for them. So how do we go on a spiritual awakening without drinking the ayahuasca, right? And P.S., some of you don't even know what ayahuasca is. Ayahuasca is a plant medicine from 2 plants, and it is the most powerful hallucinogenic on the planet. However, it only allows you to hallucinate what's already inside of you. So we'll leave that there. When I started on this journey, I had a quote that became very powerful for me as well. I love quotes because they're short bursts of knowledge. And the quote was, "The hardest thing I ever had to overcome was myself," which is the human ego. If you can overcome the ego mind and align with your spiritual mind, everything else starts to fall into place. And it's scary to do when you have to have blind faith. But when you do, it genuinely just starts working. And you don't have to have this huge faith in God to start a spiritual awakening. You just have to have faith that you know something's not working in your life and you want to change it. And if you can start there, the rest of it is going to guide you. Now, if you believe in God, fantastic. If you believe in a God, one creator, you're in a good place to start because God's going to guide you. So, the hardest thing I ever had to overcome was myself. That quote reflected my journey in a very big way. And it dictated a lot of what I had to say, and a lot of what I did. And then I would come to learn another quote. And that quote was even more profound than the first quote. And that was, the gentlest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing. The gentlest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing. And it makes me emotional because when you come from a family like mine, where there's so much pain, but also so much beauty, you learn to operate from your warrior heart, which is a term that I actually learned from my son, my oldest son, and his father. And the warrior heart is strong, but there's a catch side to that. You have to know when to put your weapon down. And that's a very difficult lesson for us to learn. And for me, going through my divorce and going through all the things that I've experienced in the last year, it's very difficult to step back and to say, you know what? It doesn't matter what brought me to this moment. It doesn't matter what brought me to this decision. I'm going to put that aside, and I'm just going to say, I love you. And I'm going to leave it there. And sometimes it might come back and it might piss you off again. But the most important thing is to come back to the words, I love you. I love you for yourself. Look in the mirror. I love you for yourself. When you say it out loud in front of a mirror actually has the ability to project it, I believe, 10 times more. So it helps manifest that more. I love you to the people around you. I love you to the people who hurt you. Because again, just like our forgiveness, that love is not just for us, it's also for them. So, the Soul Shine Mind podcast is going to be about compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, learning through this journey. I'm going to do my best to bring all these incredible human beings that I've got to encounter into this space so that they can share with you all the things that they've shared with me. And I mean, I'm talking about people from all around the world. Venezuela, Melissa, I don't know if you are watching, but if you are, girl, I'm coming for you. Zena in Dubai, and Joseph, and I mean, Angelina from Cuba, and Joyce from Colombia. All these people, they all have their own powerful story and their own powerful journey, and they are in this space, this energy where it allows them to share this incredible level of vulnerability that creates a space that is so safe and so loving for you to come in and just say, holy crap, I can bare my soul and it's okay. I can tell these people where I feel like I failed myself or others, and they're going to hug me, and they're going to say, it's okay. It's okay. So, it makes me really emotional, and if you know me, I'm a crier, because I'm a very empathetic person, so I don't just feel my own pain very deeply, I feel other people's pain very deeply, and it instantly reminds me of moments where I got to be the person embracing those people. So if you're somebody that's in a space right now where you're having a hard time, you're stressed out, or your life feels like it's falling apart, your kids are driving you batshit crazy, you're just freaking lost or confused. You don't know what you're doing. First of all, welcome to the club. We're all there, right? Some of us have it more figured out than others. Send me a message though, because if it's something that I don't know about, I know a lot of people who will share not just their knowledge and their time and their energy with you, but they're willing to share their love with you. But there's a flip side to that, because this goes back to operating from a place of deficit. If you're seeking those things, if you're seeking someone to love you, if you're seeking someone to have compassion, you have to be willing to receive it. Which means if you ask for help, you have to be willing to receive it. If you can't do that, no one's going to be able to give it to you. And I say that because I know of so many people who I know right now who want help so badly that they are willing to take their own life because they want the help, but they don't know how to accept it. They want the love, but they don't know how to accept it. If you're in that space, send me a message. I'm not a therapist. However, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. But more than the mistakes, I have looked inward, and I have and continue to do the self-awareness work that allows me to recognize those things, to be able to say to somebody, I'm sorry, and to leave it at that, and not have to feel like I have to defend my actions through what I felt like they did, right? Which is such a powerful moment of transcending that drama triangle, right? The power of a true apology comes from your ability to look at somebody in the eye and say, I'm sorry that I hurt you in this way. And that is it. Not, but you did this. Not, I felt like you were doing this. Just saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my part. If you can do that, it allows you to remove yourself from that drama triangle quicker. And that is very difficult for a lot of people to do. So, counting Coup, which means embracing the battles we face inside ourselves with compassion to show our own bravery. Because when we do that, then we can extend compassion to those around us so that we can possibly help them with their battles. And more importantly, by doing that, raising the energy of the people around us so that we can possibly take our world into a different direction in 2025. We all watch the TV, we all hear politics, we all hear the conversations, we see the people in our communities that are having a hard time financially with the economy, all these things, right? If you start with yourself, you're going to affect everybody around you. So back to what we were saying, how do I start my own spiritual awakening without drinking the ayahuasca, Leslie? Simple. Number one, my favorite thing to do is actually listening to different frequencies at night. And the reason for that is because I call it my lazy healing, right? I turn on the frequencies and let it play. A lot of times, if you know me, I'm a total crackhead, right? I'm operating at 100% at all times. It helps me fall asleep very quickly. But on top of that, those frequencies will heal things inside of you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, without any effort of yours consciously, and without taking any more time out of your day. Because if you're like me, you don't always have time to give. So turn some frequencies on at night. I highly suggest frequencies over manifestations to start, because manifestations, unless you've listened to them all the way through, you want to make sure you know what the message is before you go implanting it into your brain all night. So frequencies at night. What else can we do? Well, easy. You can start your day writing 5 things you're grateful for. I have a jar on my kitchen counter, and I have a Post-it note stack that I keep next to the jar. I write 5 things that I'm grateful for every day as a reminder to make sure that I'm not complaining about those things constantly. So it can be anything, right? It could be trees, it could be stars, whatever you're grateful for. If you start your day by writing 5 things you're grateful for, I promise you that it's going to change the tone of your day. And it's going to do it in a profound way. So some frequencies at night that take no effort. Some 5 quick things that you can be grateful for each day. What else? Oh, the power of gratitude through spoken word. My ayahuasca experience in Costa Rica gave me some really crazy experiences that I'm not going to dive into right now because I'm not trying to freak anybody out in the first podcast. But it brought me very close to God. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. But now God speaks to me, and God speaks to me very clearly, very clearly. If you know me, you know I'm constantly looking up at the ceiling or the sky saying, can we do this later? Or are you kidding me? That's me communicating with God. So my experience with communicating to God was also about recognizing all the things we ask for as people. So your prayers don't have to be long, drawn out things, right? If you're like, I don't even know how to pray, or I don't even know what to pray for, I can assure you God doesn't need you to give him 10 minutes of words. And I use him loosely, mostly from my upbringing, FYI. No need to debate the energy of God right now. We'll do that another day. But your prayers, again, like the one that I started with, thank you for all I've had, all I have yet to receive. Takes me 2 seconds. So frequencies, 5 things we're grateful for in the morning, a 2.5 second prayer. Drinking water, Holy Mother. If you know me, especially when I was doing events, I could go days without water. Drink water, because water actually, the power of water in the human body is profound, profound. Water is a source of life. Those few things will transform many things about your day. The other thing is paying attention to signs around you. And we all have different beliefs, and which is one of my favorite things. If you know me, I embrace all cultures, all religions, all perspectives. If you come to my front yard, which is a fan fave for therapy on my porch, I have a giant cross in my front yard. I have a Buddha. I've got all these things. And one of the things that people love to say is, hey, Leslie, what's with the Buddha? Because it's next to my giant cross. And what I always say to everyone is, you mean what's with the Buddha and the cross? If we're going to ask, we want to paint the whole picture, right? It's my belief that God uses everything around us to communicate with us. So he actually speaks to me a lot with numbers as well. My numbers, my synchronicities are insane. So pay attention to signs around you, because maybe you're not hearing God's voice clearly. Maybe you're sitting on your couch saying, God, 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 why won't you answer me? And maybe God's trying to communicate with you in a different way that aligns with your soul differently than words. Maybe God's trying to show you something in a different way, right? Some people get messages through their dreams. Me, not my dreams. He seems to like jolt me awake at 3 a.m. So if you ever awake at 3 a.m., shoot me a message. I'm probably out on my front porch like a crazy person in my poncho, conversing with God over a cup of coffee. So again, embark on a spiritual awakening. Transform the energy inside you so you can transform the energy of those around you, so that we can transform our world collectively. You don't have to go drink the ayahuasca and jump out, launch from the catapult. You can just do it by changing small things about your day, your routines. Fear is a barrier and a bridge. Fear holds us back from things that allow us to grow, allow us to change, and allow us to see things clearer, see people clearer, see situations clearer. So if fear is holding you back, look at your drama triangle and see where it's affecting you, so that you can take the barrier of fear and use it as your bridge to empowerment. That's all I have for you today. And I didn't pay attention to the time after we got cut off. Reach out if you have someone you know who needs help. Try to be patient with each other. I'm not a saint. Ask my ex-husband. I don't have the patience of a saint, but I do have a lot of patience. And I do genuinely try to help people. So if you or someone you know just needs somebody to talk to, reach out. Send me a message. I love all of you. I love myself. Thank you for taking time out of the first day of your brand new year to listen to my chaos and to bounce around these topics with me. I didn't have all of it lined up the way most professional podcasts are, only because I was embracing so many fears all at once that I didn't want to feel like it had to be perfect, especially with my background doing events and design. And if you know me, I'm a perfectionist. So I was kind of throwing caution to the wind and just saying, you know what, I'm going to let this unfold however it is. Whatever it's meant to be, it's going to be. And hopefully the drama triangle is something that you can identify in your life so that you can pass that on to someone else, and so that you can teach your kids, because our kids are our future. The quickest way to change our world is to start teaching them. So the drama triangle, I highly recommend you look it up, study it. There are lots of ways to help remove yourself from it. There's lots of questions you can ask yourself when you're in those moments, and I will also post them to my Facebook so that you can read them. If you don't have time to go researching it, I'm going to have it all listed there. Read up on it. I guarantee you will save yourself a lot of heartache, because for me, my biggest issue was thinking that I had to save everybody, which was really my excuse for remaining in situations that weren't healthy for me. Don't do that. In the meantime, when doubt creeps in your mind, remind yourself, my voice matters. My story will reach the people who need it. I'm not here to compete. I am here to share. And I trust in the process of my unique journey, because all of our journeys are different and they're all going to be profound. All you have to do is be willing to look inward and to give yourself that compassion. So, touch your challenges, honor your journey, and remember that the gentlest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing. And I'm a pretty hard thing. So if I'm sitting here crying publicly, I can assure you it works. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for those of you who took the time to hop back on after I got cut off, for dropping that word. And I'm probably going to drop it again just to, because that's what I do. So with that being said, we're going to bring new light to our lives through the Soul Shine Mind podcast, collectively and as individuals. And I will see you next week on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Hopefully with a little more structure. I make no guarantees because, again, I fly by the wind. And actually, I'm going to be road tripping to California. So my next podcast is going to be from the road. The 2 podcasts after that will be in California and possibly Mexico. And then the podcast after that, those 3 will also be from the road, because then I should be returning by then. So the next 4 will probably be wild. And the 5th one after that, I'm hoping will be way more structured, way more professional, because I have this amazing friend named Jesse Vaughn. Jesse Vaughn, if you don't know him, is this beautiful soul who has won something like 30 Emmys, maybe even more, because he's a badass like that. Director and producer. He used to direct things like In Living Color. He directed Juana Man. So look him up, because Jesse offered to produce my podcast. And Jesse, I'm letting you know publicly right now, if you're still watching, I am going to take you up on your offer. Let's do this. I can't wait to see where it goes. Thank you, everyone. Sending you with love and light and compassion and mistakes and all the wonderful things that make us human beings. Go make your mistakes, but more importantly, learn from them and hug them afterwards and grow from them. Until then, I'll see you on Wednesday next week at 6 p.m. Please expect music. I had thoroughly planned on starting this one singing and having this totally different vibe, but like I said, it didn't go as planned. Here I am. The next ones will be fun. I love you all, and I will see you Wednesday at 6 p.m. I'm out.